Hey, so we are going to be going over question 13 from chapter 6. That is finding the function slope and function intercept. We're going to run these tests and a few others that are not included on this page. This is the code I wrote. First, we're going to import system. The system is going to allow us to run tests on our code. So line is how we get our specific line of code. If the test is true, then we're going to eventually set message equal to test at line blank, again from our line is okay. If it ends up being false, then it'll print this message, or it will set a message equal to this. Test at line blank has failed, and then the end of the code is to print the message. Just jump to the bottom. When we run our tests, if this ends up being true, then it will print as okay. So going quickly through line slope, our variables are x1, y1, x2, y2. We want to make sure that there's no division by 0, and we want to make sure that any strings are filtered out. So that's why we have these two beginning booleans. So if there's any cases in which our change in x is 0, that's captured here, we want to return out of the function without putting an output, or by putting a blank output rather. Here, if any of our variable types are string, we want to again exit the function. So if neither of these variables, neither of these booleans are met, we're going to skip down to our code. We're going to find our change in y, our change in x, we're going to calculate our slope, and then round our slope. For the intercept, we find a similar setup. Again, x1, y1, x2, y2 are our variables. If the type of any of these variables are a string, we're going to exit the code and just put out a blank output. If not, we're going to calculate our slope, which we'll find will be problematic because there will be rounding error, but we'll see that in a moment. And then we're going to return the slope rounded to 1 decimal. Okay, let's run our test suite. Okay, so most things turned out as expected. I have these additional lines here to show us that if we put in a string, our output's going to be none, and that proves fine. If we put our change in x equal to 0, again, we should have no output, and that was fine. What we did find issue with was this third to last line. It failed. Let's see why. So the output is actually 5.2, not 5, when the intercept has these points as points on its line. And the reason is rounding error. Because we're rounding the slope here as part of our slope function before we're plugging it in, this leads to increased error as we use the function iteratively as nestled helper functions. So this is actually not the best code for us to use. This is the best code. So there's a couple ways we could have handled this. One is to take out this rounding here. That would have solved that error. But then we wouldn't have it printed out how the exercise asked us to, which is rounded to 1 variable listed. So instead, we are going to use this code here. This, instead of nestling our slope function inside our intercept function, we are just going to retype it so that it is calculating the slope within the function and then plugging that in and then rounding at the very end for our b. So again, same setup. Division by 0 is not allowed. Strings are not allowed, but we'll just exit the function. Here we're calculating our slope within our intercept function. And then we're plugging in our value for our slope and we're rounding b. So again, the rounding does not happen till the very end. Let's run our code. Good. And you see that this time when we print the intercept, we actually get 5 instead. And that's because we're not rounding the slope again within our slope function before plugging it in, but only rounding it at the very end. So now we have completely tested code. Any stray problems that we could anticipate are addressed, and we have good outputs. That's it.